Salve, salve, Maestro here. And today we are here to talk about our first Tinto Talk, which will cover some battles. And this is our first Tinto Talk, but I think that this is going to be also the last one. Not because they will stop doing it, but because U5 was released. I'm recording this after they released the U5. So probably it won't be Tinto Talks anymore and rather being U5 Dev Diaries. So with no more further ado, let's start it. Hello everyone and welcome to another Happy Wednesday. Today we will show off some more things related to our very super secret game, Project Caesar, which is U5 indeed. So today we're going to be covering battles. And this situation here, they selected the Teutonic War against the Polish. So this is our current situation in the Teutonics and our population here. So since 70% are Catholics, but only 26 are Persian, the Teutonics won't be able to raise a large amount of levies. Probably this is explained in some dev diaries that I didn't read, but it seems that one faith, one culture will be very more about mechanic of the game rather than a role playing style because this directly affect the amount of leverage that you're going to be able to raise. Although this one faith, one culture is something more to the late game, and to the late game, you won't be relying anymore on levies and actually on professional armies. But let's see. So he also cites that Teutonic Order doesn't have a lot of control over his country, which is actually true for most of the countries, I think. Only OPMs or small countries like in Italy will have a big amount of control over all of its land. So the first decision is to promote the Persian culture in the capital to increase the levies, and also in Masuria, which probably is another province that has a ton of population. So this is the war map mode, and I think it's beautiful. And I really like this number because this is information you can actually extract from the game, but plotting it on the map mode make it so much easier. Although I know that a lot of people would prefer to have a fog of war in order to increase the game difficulty or making it more realistic. So ideally, as we have a nice amount of manpower from our other commentaries in Europe, I'd like to raise some more regulars. Luckily, we earn some money from the trade in our cities, even though our tax base is so weak. I give the order to recruit 2 more Crusader Knights at 100 men each in Marienburg, and while I gather my levies and regulars in Osterod, I noticed that the army of one of the Polish vessels in the county of Sieradz have moved across the border and started sieging our castle in Thorn. While my morale is a bit low after marching across my lands, I have just appointed a new general with some great stats and decided to adjust my army to maximize my chance in battle. So morale will work like Hoi for organization, which when you are in movement, it decreases. But if I'm not mistaken, in Hoi 4, it only affects when you are moving, right? And this seems to be something like fixed. So if I stop moving, I will not immediately go up for 100 morale. I'll probably need to wait a little bit in the province in order to take it up. So here we have a view of how the army works. We have the center, left flank, and right flank. So it's a little bit different from what happens in MU4. Because from my perspective, this should be considered a back row, even though in U4 only the siege units could be in the back row. So maybe this will be some type of archers that will stay on the back firing while not taking damage, I guess. And also we have our reserves, which probably is related to combat with it. And also something that I noticed is this bear here, which probably most of the people don't recognize it because they didn't play it, but it seems like the strategy of the general. And I say it because in Imperator Rome, it works like that. Like you can appoint a strategy that is named after animals to each army. And in this case, probably is the bear strategy or something like it. And now we have a C over the battle. We still have some dice rolls, which are fine. Like, I can see why a battle should have some randomness. On the top here, I think it's morale, and this number is discipline. So we have a much bigger discipline than our enemies, and we actually have a bigger army enrolled, like 8,000 to 1,000, a difference of almost 1,000, and here a difference of almost 40. So we have 600 men more than they. And we also have the back row, which I don't know if they are reserves or if they are actually firing from there. So I decided to do some calculations over this number here, and it matches. So I think they are the reserves, so they don't actually engage in battle and they are not inflicting damage over the enemy. So as the time passed, our green bar decreased, which I don't understand why, because it seems like we have the advantage. And I think this number here, this gray number, is the number of troops that are available, while the number of troops that are actually fighting might be this white one, but I didn't understand it very well, being honest. Yeah, exactly. It's literally written here, okay. So it takes a while for the army to actually engage in the battle. And from hovering the mouse over the battle UI, you can actually expand it to this widget here, which we like a lot. Like, I like to hover my mouse and receive more information about what I'm seeing. And we can see that our general is better than them. We have bigger numbers. Our morale is lower, although the amount of troops is higher. And we inflicted more damage over their regiments, right? So a few hours later, it actually switched. Like, I'm assuming this is morale. Now our morale increased while their decreased a lot. So technically we are still winning. And by looking at the white numbers, they are almost defeated. So the center, it's almost completely vanished. And I don't know if this will impact something. Like, if one of the sides is vanished, it will inflict more damage over them. So if I completely defeat the center army, then this army will split the damage to the flanks, something like it would be cool. And it actually ended here. It was very, very fast, probably because they announced it in the day before the U5, right? Yeah, it was one day before the announcement of U5, which is, of course, much bigger. And talking about it, let's see the first screenshots of the U5. And of course, we need to play. But just by looking at, the first thing that comes to my mind is the UI is not good. I've seen people talking about it, but it seems like it's too much. Maybe it's because I'm not used to it and I do not know what each thing do, but it feels to me that it's taking too much space in the screen, and actually it's a lot of information at the same time, so it might be confusing. Although I prefer this maximalist style compared to the minimalistic style of Series 7, let's say, that is completely terrible. So after looking a little bit more to it, I managed to understand a little bit more of what's happening. And I still think that there should be some things to remove. So, like, the powers of the states, I think it's not worth it to take up this space here. So they could remove it from here. Maybe the states are much, much more important than in U4, and they actually are. We know it by the Tinto Talks, but I don't know if it's that important, like that it needs to be in the main page. So probably this should remove this, in my opinion. And also the character portrait here is useless. This could be just a flag like in U4 or VK3, or basically every Paradox game, the flag stays right here. I think only CK3 that this feature is available by the character, which stays on the bottom left. And also there are some things that I still don't think they should be here, like diplomatic capacity, or exhaustion, or like this thing over here. It seems to me that is just like, this is stats, this is wiki configurations. So there could be a hidden menu which you click it, and only then it show all these options here for you to see. Like age of discovery, it's okay to be here because it's important to know, and probably it's clickable, so you have a view of institutions, let's say. But the rest, they could remove it. And also something that I noticed now is these floating points, which are terrible in my opinion. I think that this is the international organizations that you take part in, but this would be much better if it were like in U4 that is on the right bottom. Like these floating buttons here, they seem to be out of place, you know? It could be down here together with this thing that's the map mode, or in the bottom right or in the bottom left, something like it, but not in the middle, floating in the center of the screen. But in order to not only complain, we need to say that the graph is amazing. The map is amazing. You can see the cities, all the graphical stuff besides the UI looks gorgeous, looks amazing. This will be also a very cool map to see, and this is something that Paradox have gone right multiple times. Like the map of the newer games are amazing. This is something that we can't complain about it. So moving to another screen again, I need to say that the sea being actually water is amazing. It's beautiful. It's a very nice decision here. I think that there should be the option for you to switch to a paper map mode, but talking about the water, it's beautiful. And I think that this actually matched the time because it is 10 a.m. and the sun is hitting the water almost in 90 degrees. So I think that if it is on the late afternoon, beginning of the night, maybe the sun will be hitting from the left, while if it's in the sunrise, it will be coming from the right, which is very good to see. And also something that I need to point out about the UI again is that if you remember the last picture, this one, you can see that this thing over here that I think it's the action that you were taking because it's very similar to U4, they can be overlaid by the notifications. So this also happens in Wiki Free and it's bad, but at least the UI in Wiki Free doesn't take as much space as the U5 is taking. And again, this is another bad thing about the UI that I'm thinking. So just going over the graphs here, now we have the army moving, and I actually seen a video of the army moving, and it's very good because the army actually moves. Like in most of the games, they start moving and then snap into the other province. But in U5, it seems like they actually move step by step until actually moving to the next province. And finally, the last map that I wanted to see, it's this one that's actually in the Americas. And it's something that it seems strange to me, at least, because if you take a look at England here, they have a massive proportion of land and it's owned by England itself. I thought that by this size, there should be a colony subject, you know, rather than this being directly owned by England. And we already can see the border guard that will happen in U5 because in U4 it already happens. In Wiki 3 it happens in Africa, but I think they've done a great job about it. But in U5 this is gonna be very, very bad in my opinion. Like I really don't like border guard, and you can already see Aragon taking like 2 provinces over Castile for no reason here in Cuba. So this is gonna be a very tough game to play for we that dislike border gore. So that's all for today. I hope you liked our first Tinto Talk and first impressions about the screenshots of U5. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.